Namaste, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jeanette and I'm a very high vibrational being. I'm back. I'm guided to talk some more, read some more to you guys regarding our ancient ancestors. Whether you relate to them or not, we always have to be open-minded to just look at people's expansion of mind, of knowledge, and not labeling, just being open and learning, and take what always resonates and leave the rest behind. You have that. Nobody is imposing anything on anyone. I am a ancient reincarnated soul. Background, it's a variety of multicultural lives that I lived, and I'm called to talk about it. So spirit, I'm guided and I'm very thankful. And sharing knowledge and is the truth. Just more, how you say it? Looking at things as factual. Truth. Not to oppress. Not to hurt. Not to control. Not to manipulate. Not to do anything to harm, hurt any individual in the process. So, and I'm very thankful to all of my spirit team, my spiritual team whom I work with, and I always receive these messages. I have here over 3-4 books on and of studies. It's a lot of facts. When you do research, when you're guided to research a certain topic, or this could be in your DNA, you know how fast you're activating yourself? You know how much knowledge and wisdom and creativity and understanding of yourself, and not taking anything from outside, just always going within. Nobody imposes. You take the information as it resonates. Nobody's debating. Nobody is doing anything. Just being open. Open to receiving. If it's not for you, then it's not for you. Then bye. Here we go. And this book, I really is this the ancient secrets of the flower of life by it's volume 1, and it's by Drunvalo, Melchizedek. It's very interesting because Melchizedek is also an ancient magician and this writer, and who is, anyway, let me just get into the story, okay? You guys, buy the book. Egyptians rolled in the evolutions of consciousness, introductions to some basic concepts, Egyptian tools and symbols of resurrections. The ancients used certain symbols to represent 3 aspects of consciousness. We use our surgeon here on earth. You will see representations of these symbols all over the world. This depiction have the flies over the earth. The animals that live under the ground represents the microcosm. The one who flies through the air represents the microcosm. The one who walks the earth represents the middle level between the two, like us. The same symbols are everywhere. In Egypt, you will see a vulture on the left, the right eye of Horus in the middle, and then the cobra on the right. In Peru, it's the condor, the puma, and the rattlesnake. For the American Indians, it's the eagle, the mountain lion, and the rattlesnake. In the Tibet, it's the chicken, pig, and the snake. The photo shows the tools and symbols Egyptians used. The object, which is this point A. I don't know, you guys gotta get the ball. Okay. Short term of a rod that usually about 4 feet long and has little tuning forks on each end and a 45-degree angle on the other end. This is used at the back of the head to transfer the vibrations into the body. Along with that, they use the hook and the fail, which we'll see in the adjustment moment. B, the oval, which is usually red-orange color that you see over the initiate's head. This was a symbol for the metamorphosis that happens when we go through resurrections and ascensions, when we literally change the shape and chemistry of our body. Arrow C shows a power generator that's sometimes used to increase the vibration. Unfortunately, thoughts left before I could finally understand the use of this object. So he channels thought, describe the Egyptian God. From the Egyptian point of view, it is the key to eternal life. Arrow E points to the triangle, with the triangle which has an Egyptian hieroglyphic for the star Sirius. The symbol for Cyrus A and Cyrus B. Point F is the hieroglyphic for the star Sirius, the symbols of Cyrus and Cyrus A and Cyrus B. Point F is just a name called Karche. The bird at the top of the right is a vulture, which is sacred to the Egyptians and associated with the movements from one level of consciousness to another. I am not going into the other things in the picture, but these are some of the tools that the early Egyptians used. So these are the tools. You can take that. It's not very easy to see because this is also I don't know. It's not very clear picture of the tools, but you can see there's several. There's an ankh. So there's certain shapes, triangles. These that's why it's important to understand geometry. The like I was telling you guys about the symbols. You know, it's just not a symbol. It's a meaning. There's always a meaning behind that. There's a purpose, a message. The difference between dying, resurrection, and ascension, these geometric images comes from the Old Kingdom. The little flower of life patterns are associated with Leher, the pyramids that I believe destroyed the Squara theory. In this picture of Osiris, on the left, he's holding a quart a 45-degree rod with a tuning fork at the end. Oh. And a flail, which are the three primary instruments used for resurrection. These tools were connected with resurrections, not ascension. There's a difference between the two. What is the difference? First of all, there's dying, a process where you go into the void state immediately after death. Sorry. Your consciousness, unaware of the dying process to the degree that you have no control over the images. This way of dying takes you into the third overtone of the fourth dimension, which results in your cycling back into the earth existence again and again, reincarnation. Because you're unconscious in this cycle, you're not using your Merkaba except unconsciously. So once you get to the other side, you don't have to have any memories of this side. When you reincarnate back to Earth again, you don't have any memories of where you just came from either. So the reincarnating just keeps going on and on. It's a lot of energy moving very slowly. You eventually get through it, but it's a very slow process. When you go through the resurrections, you're unaware and conscious of your Merkaba, though usually you don't become fully aware of it until after you die. You die, you drop the body, and then you become aware of your Merkaba. Then you recreate your body and go through a process that leads you into either the 10th, 11th, or 12th overtones of the fourth dimension. From there, you don't go through reincarnation anymore. Your memory is never blocked again, and you continue on into eternal life. There's a big difference between dying and resurrections, but there's an even greater difference in ascension, which is now possible since the grid was completed in 1989. Ascensions was highly unlikely until this grid was complete. In ascension, you don't die at all. There is no death process involved as we know it. Of course, it is true that you are no longer on the earth. And from the point of view, you die. What happens is you simply become aware of your Merkaba, one way or another, either remembering it on your own, being taught it, or however it happens to you. This means you become aware of your body as light. Then you're able to pass through the void totally, consciously, from the earth side through the void to the higher dimensions, aware the whole time. In this way, you simply walk out of this life without going through the death process, which involves reconstructing your human body. When a person ascends, he or she simply disappears from this dimension and reappears in the next, passing through the void. Ascension is now completely possible, and in this book is one possible set of instructions on how to accomplish this process. You personally might not pass through ascension. You might actually die or go through resurrection. It doesn't make a difference at this point in the game of life on the planet, because if you die in the normal manner, you'll go into the third tone and into a holding pattern for a while and then rest on the earth cycle. Through this coming change, all people on that third overtone will also rise to the same dimensional levels as those who re-erected or ascended. Even the Bible refers to this, saying that at this time the dead will rise. There is no such thing as death. There are just different states of being. It's a little like water, which can be liquid, solid, or gas, fog, but it's still water. Right now, every human reincarnations are occurring on Earth, except under certain conditions. This is probably your last life, folks. This is it. Of course, there is an exception to all rules, so there may be a few on this earth who have decided to reincarnate. This time is running out. If we make it to the end of the century, I'll be amazed. I seriously doubt. I don't like to say negative words, but I guess he said doubt if the third dimension will still be available for human life by that time. Only God knows for certain. Where are the people coming from who are being born on earth today? Not from here. And I'll explain when I talk about the new children. Then he goes on to talk about when the sun rose in the west. As Egyptians began to evolve, it developed into two centuries, Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. Upper Egypt was south and Lower Egypt was north. Egyptians named Upper and Lower Egypt in the sort of reverse way of thinking, because in the earlier life as a country during Atlas, the earth was rotating in the opposite direction and the magnetic poles were reversed. Our present north was then south and vice versa. Not only did the poles shift their positions from Atlantis, but the earth actually rotated in the opposite direction. Thought said that he gone through 5 pole shifts. He's seen the sun rise in the east, and he's seen the sun rise in the west, then in the east, then in the east, the west, and then again east 5 times. On the ceiling of the temple of Dentra, which is the heart chakra of the male aspects of the Christ grid, is an astrological zodiac that demonstrates this reverse polarity. This is so funny. Wow. I'm just looking at the symbol here. I had a dream. I seen this symbol or something similar to this on a boat. Anyway. On the scene, okay, let's see. We are the creators of our universe. People involved in selfness may remember Sufi Sam, also known as Murshid Sam Lewis. He was buried in the early 70s, I believe, at the Lama Foundation in New Mexico. There was a plaque over his grave that read, "On that day the sun will rise in the west, and all men seeing will believe." He was referring to the times that's coming. When the pole shifts next time, there will be a reversal to the Earth's rotation. That's the way we move in relations to the sun. Prior to Egypt, this is Osiris, the first immortal. Prior to Egypt, during Atlantis, existed a Nakal mystery school headed by A and Taya and 1,000 members of Lemuria. It was located on the island of Udal, north of the mainland. They were trying to teach the Atlanteans how to become immortal. I had a dream. Lemuria, Atlantis. I have many dreams. I see the gods. I see the gods. The gods were here and they're back here. Many don't see them because of the level of consciousness you have to get to. You have to release that side, the darkness, to come to the light. It's a lot. It was located on the island of Utah, north of the mainland. They was trying to teach the Atlanteans how to become immortal. The only thing is, either they weren't very good teachers then, or the people just couldn't get it, because it took 20 to 30,000 years before one person finally achieved the immortal state of being. The first person to make it was Osiris, who is not Egyptian but Atlantean. The story of Osiris didn't appear in Egypt, even though it talks about the Nile, but in Atlantis. Though most of you know this story, I will tell it in a condensed form. There were 2 brothers and 2 sisters from the same family. Their names were Isis and Osiris, Nephthys and Set. Isis married Osiris and Nephthys married Set. At the point where the story begins, Set killed Osiris. He put Osiris' body in a box and floated it down to the Nile, though it was really another river in Atlantis. This killing disturbed Isis, and she and her sister Set, wife, went out to look for Osiris. They found his body and brought it back, intending to bring Osiris back to life. When Set found out, he cut Osiris' body into 14 pieces and spread them all over the world, so that his sister could not bring him back to life. Isis, Nephthys, then went out looking for all the pieces to put him back together. They found 13 of the 14 and assembled the pieces, but never found the phallus, the 14th piece. It was thought, who was the Atlantis as well as Egypt, who through magic restored the 14th piece. This restored the creative energy flow, brought Osiris back to life, and in addition gave him immortality. From the Egyptians' point of view, it was through sexual energy that immortality was reached. But remember, it was through sexual energy, Tantra, that immortality took root in Lemuria. I'm going to leave this last element of the story until another appropriate moment, because a certain understanding needs to come first. But notice that Osiris was first alive, walking around in a body, in the first level of consciousness. Then he was killed, and his body was cut into 14 pieces. He was separated from himself. This was conscious level 2, our level. Then pieces were brought back together, and he was made a whole. which put him into the third level of consciousness, which is immortality. He went through 3 levels of consciousness. The first one was whole, the second one was separated of itself, and the third level, all the components were brought back together. This made him whole again and also made him immortal. He would no longer die. When Osiris finally got through all this, he came back as an immortal being, the first resurrected master of Atlantis. So they used Osiris's understanding of how to become immortal as the template for how other people could reach the same state of consciousness. This became the religion of Atlantis and later on the religion of Egypt. The transpersonal holographic memory of the first level of consciousness. Atlanteans, because of the way their brains function, had complete memory. They remembered everything that ever happened to them, and their memory was transpersonal, which means that anything one person remembers, the others in the race could remember. The Aborigines in Australia have this type of memory right now. When anything happens to one Aborigine, any other can re-experience it at any time he or she wants. If an Aborigine were to talk into this room right now, he or she would, in effect, be giving the experience of all their race anywhere on the planet. You see that they're on the first level consciousness, where they're not separate from themselves. We are on the second level and are very separated from ourselves. Like the Atlanteans, the Aborigines don't have memories like our vague kind of recollections that have full tilt 3D holographic memory. And they don't want me to talk. They could reconstruct this room moment by moment through the entire workshop. Sorry, drink some water. It would be a replica of the reality. The memory is perfect. They don't have any reason to write anything down. Why try to describe something with words when you got the real thing? They didn't need it. However, the Martian aspects did need it, so they had a written language. Even after the fall of the Egyptians and others had an amazing ability to remember, at that point they lost their holographic and transpersonal memory, but they still had the photographic memory. When the mystery school students were doing the complicated kind of training we'll be doing soon, they could do all in their heads. With our less efficient memory, we cannot do this in the time way they did. We have to struggle just to remember someone's name. The complexity will increase as we progress, making it difficult to remember our photo to photo, but in the ancient ones could do this completely in their heads. This is something to show you, right? This is something about doing this in your head that is important. So later I am going to show you some illustrations that will assist you to do this yourself. This experience holds primary key to understanding the nature of creation. Recreate the illustration that follows as if you were actually in the void, moving through the geometrical movements. Experiencing it gives you the understanding that the circles on the pages represent actual movements, and that these geometrical movements of spirits in the void are the beginning and end of creation. Very interesting, because it's like when you meditate, you go straight into that void, that darkness. Then you have to go into the darkness. It's like, anyway, I was just how you say it? The graphic, I was just picturing it right in my brain. It was like just giving me the flashes. It's like the memories. You decode your memory. This is what you're doing. Decoding your DNA. The introduction of writing, which created the second level of consciousness. The 42 books of thought record that after the fall, when the Atlanteans got into Egypt and were no longer experiencing full memory, writing was introduced. In fact, it is written right in the Egyptian records that it was Thoth who introduced writing to the world. This is one of the acts completely the fall and threw us out of the first level conscious and fully into the second, because it's changed the way we accessed memory. It sealed our fate. This act of learning how to write caused us to grow the top half of our skull from our eyebrows up. The complete act of introducing writing changed many factors in a way we perceive our reality. To get at our memory, now we have to go into and pull out the desired information with a code. Hello. We go in with a word or concept to bring back the memory of whatever it is. In fact, we can't even remember something without having certain eye movement. Our eyes have to move in certain ways in order for our memories to flow out. The Egyptian memory system was vastly different from the way it was before the fall. Comparing this change of memory to the Osiris saga, the Egyptians have created the stage where they were in separate pieces, where they were inside other bodies, thinking they were separate from the rest of reality. This feeling of being separate was, of course, destined to change many aspects of how human beings live. Very interesting. And I think I got time for one more paragraph. One more. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. The roadblock to the pathologism. Chromosomes and meters. I don't know. It's just that, that information is like, once you start researching, once you start learning, you always decoding yourself, opening, expanding certain words, certain vibrations. It's about sound. It's about colors, decoding certain energies within yourself, your DNA. Yeah, 34K. The roadblock of, okay, now the plot thickens. These were going well with the stair-step evolution plan. After a while, Upper and Lower Egypt combined into one country under King Menes, and the first dynasty began. But as some time went on, a serious problem developed which, if it had not been solved, would have caused major catastrophe for us in the 20th century. In fact, we would not have survived as a planet. We wouldn't have a chance. It seems like not so important thing, but it was very important for some who watch over this planet. It had to do with the religious belief of the Egyptians. And as I said, the Egyptians were no longer had full holographic transpersonal memory anymore. So they had to write down what their religion was. This writing is called the 42 Books of Thought, which I don't know, okay. 42 Books of Thought. And this is thought. Donald Beeman, who lives in Boston, is the man who reconstructed this book. There were 42 books with 2 more books set aside from the main body. 42 plus 2 represents the number of chromosomes of the first level consciousness. Your chromosomes, as you are about to see, are geometric images and patterns that describe the entire reality, not just your body, but everything in the reality, from the most distant planet to the smallest planet, and every single atom. Very interesting. Inside this book, you see that they are called neters. Neters are gods with a small g. This is one of the neters, Anubis. They are mythical human beings with animal heads, and each one represents a different chromosome, a different aspects and characteristic of life. Neter represents the pathway to how to go from the first to the second level consciousness. The Ascended Master used Osiris' particular genetic coding to help others people learn how to ascend. In other words, Osiris had lived the experience of ascension, and now the pathway was in his DNA, especially the chromosomes. The genetic keys are then opened to ignite through the neters, who represented Osiris's chromosomes. And then it there, that's very interesting.